cancer surgery. But it turns out it's too late. The cancer has spread throughout my body, but I don't feel angry. Instead, I clutch my wife's amulet and burst out laughing, because in my eyes, only the end of my lineage can bring peace to her soul. But when I open my eyes again, I find myself in my old house. Red wedding letters are stuck on the window. I frantically search every room and finally find Yara, huddled up on that cold, earthen cot. There's only emptiness in her eyes. Her soft skin is now covered in blue marks. Seeing the woman who's been in my dreams for half my life again brings tears to my eyes. I reach out and hold her tightly in my arms. My chest is filled with regret and anguish. My throat is parched, and finally, I burst into tears. In my previous life, I deliberately pushed Yara into the water so that the village would see her in a miserable state. To save her honor, she had no choice but to marry me. But after marriage, Yara never experienced a single day of happiness. She endured my violence and oppression. Finally, Yara, along with her young child, jumped into the dam and took her own life. It was only when her brother pulled out their bodies that my eyes opened. In the years that followed, I amassed immense wealth, beyond what could have been spent even in 10 lifetimes. But the woman who gave her life to teach me how to live was gone forever. I was celebrating my new life when she screamed, "Stay away from me, don't touch me." Seeing Yara trembling in my arms, I suddenly remembered everything. Just the day before, I had snatched the money Yara had asked for the baby's porridge and spent it all on alcohol. Old memories torment me. I slap my face until it bleeds. Yara smiles hatefully because she's seen such false remorse many times. Every time my intoxication wore off, I'd kneel down and beg for forgiveness. But within 2 days, my hands would be on her again. She could bear the humiliation, but she couldn't bear to see her daughter suffer from hunger. Hearing the child's weak voice, Yara's empty eyes come to life. She quickly dresses and takes the crying child in her arms. Weeks of weakness have dried up Yara's milk, and the child is crying with hunger. That voice brings me back to my senses. I jump out of bed and pick up my clothes from the floor. "Yara, wait, I'll get you something to eat." Saying this, I run towards Hook's shop on the edge of the village. Hook, seeing me approach, laughs with his dirty teeth. "Which wine do you want this time?" "Hook, can I borrow a packet of porridge? I'll pay tomorrow." Hook stops at the mention of a loan. He sees the marks of the slaps on my face and says nothing. He quietly takes the porridge from the cupboard and gives it to me. I thank him repeatedly and run towards the house. But when I return home and see Yara huddled in a corner, my heart sinks again. "Yara, look, I've brought the porridge. I'm warning you, don't sell my daughter, or I'll curse your entire lineage to extinction." Hearing her words, my legs freeze. Then I remember that in my previous life, I actually planned to sell my daughter to a family in the city for money for alcohol. I curse myself for what a beast I was. No wonder I ended up like this. I deserved this. I carefully placed the packet of porridge on the old cot. I swear, I will never sell Mamie. Tomorrow I'll go to the city and find work. Then I leave the room and slap myself several more times in the courtyard. I remember that this month, Yara jumped into the dam with Mimi and died. Just thinking about it sends shivers down my spine. It's getting dark, and there's not even a grain of food in the house. 20 minutes later, I'm standing on the hill behind the village. I take a rubber band from my waistband and fashion a makeshift slingshot. A stone hits the target, and a dove flutters away. Having become rich in my previous life, I developed a passion for shooting. I was a master at slingshotting. I hide in the bushes and wait. I catch a plump partridge in a net and use the slingshot to drop 4 doves. Each one weighs 1.5 kilos, but the partridge alone weighs 2 to 2 kilos. I tie the prey and hang it on a branch. Then I realize something's missing. I break into a sweat. I think it's some kind of witchcraft. Just then, the amulet hanging on my chest glows with a faint light. It was the same amulet Yara always carried with her. On the day she died, she took it off and placed it on the bank of the dam. The light disappears. I touch the amulet, and the next moment I find myself inside a strange place. It's smaller than the hospital room where I died. After examining it several times, I understand. Holding the amulet, I can go inside, and the moment I think of leaving, I immediately return. With this gift, I can restore everything. Returning home, I saw that electric bulbs were burning in many houses, but in my house it still remained the same dim oil lamp. The days of famine were over. Yet my family struggled to make ends meet. I took the prey and went to the kitchen, and at nightfall I returned to the main room with a large bowl of soup. Yara, come and eat. I've made soup. This will give you strength. After I call 3 times, Yara slowly emerges from the room. She looks at the soup on the table, but doesn't move. She just stands there. The hatred frozen in her eyes refuses to fade. Seeing my wife in those tattered old clothes makes my heart weep again. Even in this poverty, her beauty shines through. But a beast like me never appreciated it. Seeing her frightened, I understand that as long as I'm in this room, she won't even touch the food. I go to the kitchen and eat. I leave. Yara stares intently at the bowl of meat and soup. Is she dreaming? Or is this the last meal before some great disaster? Before, he used to eat all the food himself, leaving her with only the dirty dishwater. So despite her hunger, she can't muster the courage to eat. Then she comes to the door and sees me sitting under the window, drinking soup. Did she guess that I had gone hunting in the mountains? Yara goes back into the room, picks up the bowl, and slowly begins to eat. After she finishes eating, I start washing the dishes, and she looks at me in surprise. I was a useless man in the past. This was probably the first time I'd done any household chores. Finishing, I go inside with a pot of hot water. Yara, wash your hands and face with this. I put the pot down and quickly exit. I stand guard at the door. After a while, I hear the sound of water running from inside. I look at the starry sky and think about how to earn money tomorrow. Things at home must improve quickly. Fall is here. Winter temperatures will drop below freezing. Yara and Mimi need warm clothes. They won't be able to survive this cold without them. As soon as the sound of water stops, I go inside. Seeing me suddenly, Yara panics and steps back. Stay back. Seeing this, I curse myself for the kind of person I was. I know her fear won't go away overnight. I soften my voice. Yara, I just came to get the dishes. I pick up the dishes and leave without a word. Yara says nothing and quickly straightens her clothes. In the courtyard, I clean myself with the same hot water. After all, I'd been lying in the bushes all afternoon trying to catch those turtle doves. After cleaning myself, I sit on the threshold and get lost in old memories. I remember that in a past life, some outsiders wanted to come to the mountains to search for herbs. Fearing they might get lost, they hired me as a guide. Back then, I thought these city dwellers had too much time to spare, but after a few trips, I secretly learned all the tricks of finding and harvesting mountain herbs. Now I can earn money with that skill. This thought fills me with excitement. I immediately get up, prepare a torch, and grab my tools. I call inside the house, Yara, lock the door. I'm going out for work. That one-night trip turns into an all-night mountain quest. I don't return home until 4 in the morning. Luck favors me. On my way down, I spotted a demand for wildcats and picked up several young cats whose eyes hadn't even opened. Upon reaching home, I quickly cleaned the catch. I left a portion in the kitchen and headed for town with 2 large baskets. The market was crowded, and I found a good spot and arranged the meat and skins. A man exclaimed, "Wow, brother! This is real mountain game." I thought if nothing sold, I'd cook it and distribute it among my brothers and sisters. But as soon as I placed the goods, buyers started coming. An elderly couple, seeing my sunburnt skin, knew I was straight from the mountains. The price was right, so they immediately purchased 2 cats. In those days, a ration card was required to buy meat. Only such wild game could be sold freely. The woman was taking it for her grandson. Before leaving, she told her husband to buy all the skins as well, saying she would make gloves for the children. Thus, everything was sold within 2 hours. Then I take the dendrobium I collected last night to the old drugstore in town. The shopkeeper's eyes light up at the sight of the dendrobium. He carefully takes it in his hands and examines it for a long time. Then he gestures to me with his fingers for a price. "Friend, what's that price?" I look up and frown. He thought I was a simple hill boy, offering a low price. I extend my hand to take the item back. The old man quickly grabs my hand. "If you don't like the price, we can talk. I can't pay more than 60 yuan. This herb was worth much more. But what could I do? I needed money right now. Yara and Mimi were hungry at home. Finally, I struck a deal. Then I bought meat and flour, and after a long search, I found baby milk, which was very difficult to find in those days. On my way back, I remembered Yara's torn clothes, so I went to a government store. Then, on the way home, I met an old hunter. He was 70 years old. I gave him food and took his old hunting gun in return. Back then, ration stamps were required for meat, so it was better to hunt myself. Approaching the house, I saw Yara working in the fields, Mimi tied to his back. Bun was furious when I saw me coming. "Where were you dead?" I left my wife alone in the fields. I said I had gone to town for work and bought flour and meat. Invite everyone over for dinner tonight. My throat choked with emotion when I saw Bun there. He looked me up and down suspiciously. Then he looked at my overflowing baskets. "Your sister-in-law made some cornbread this afternoon. Tell Yara to take some and take care of her from now on." I nodded and quietly went home. If I want to win Yara's heart, I must first bring food home. I got busy in the kitchen. Yara returned home in the evening with some cornbread, but as soon as she stepped into the courtyard, she smelled the aroma of cooking meat. She comes straight to the kitchen and sees me working at the stove. Yara was exhausted from a long day's work and was starving. She puts away the rotis and goes into the room to put the baby to sleep. But seeing the milk carton on the table, Yara's blood boils. She comes into the kitchen and slaps me hard across the face. "Did you steal money from my mother again? Aren't you ashamed?" Hearing her words, I remember the time I actually demanded money from my mother at knife point. I quickly refused. "No, I earned this money today myself." When I extend my hand to take the money out, she gets even angrier and slaps me again. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. Seeing her not stopping, I take 50 yuan from my waistband and place it in front of me. "Yara, this is my earnings today. Keep it." Yara goes numb at the sight of the notes. She starts to feel dizzy. I try to hold her, but she shakes my hand away. He couldn't believe how someone who had never worked could bring in so much money in a single day. He thought he'd done something wrong. What should he do with all this money? It all seemed impossible. Seeing Yara's disbelief, I started to give up. I told him that last night I'd brought herbs from the mountains and even found a cat's nest. All of that earned me 60 yuan. Yara's eyes lit up at the mention of the herb. People say that ginseng rules the north and dendrobium rules the south. It's very precious, but it's found in deep forests, and finding it in the dark is incredibly difficult. But then he remembered that morning there were bloodstains near the well, and meat was cooking in a pot. Did she really misunderstand him? But how did she recognize it? I swear, with my hands raised in Yara's eyes, I haven't done anything wrong. If I have, my lineage will end here. Seeing her calm, I breathe a sigh of relief. "Yara, keep this money safe. I'm gonna give some meat to Boone's house." It would have been safer to keep the money in a talisman, but giving Yara money meant handing her the house keys. I place meat and fish soup on the table. Then, filling a large bowl from the kitchen, I head to Boone's house. On the way, I stop at Hook's shop and, along with the porridge, pay off all my past debts. Yara sees the notes and quickly goes inside and hides them. In the 2 years of our marriage, I've always been able to steal money from her. This was the first time I've given her money. She divides them into 5 parts and hides them in different places. When she comes out and sees the food laid out on the table, it all seems like a sweet dream. She looks into the kitchen and sees the flour bin full. There's oil and plenty of meat hanging around. Has he really changed? She's still skeptical. Human nature doesn't change so easily. When she sits down, I give her a pheasant leg to eat. I'm going to the mountains again tomorrow morning. I need to gather as many herbs as possible before the winter gets colder. This is the fastest way to earn money right now. Once I've saved some money, I'll start something bigger. Yara pauses and shakes her head. She knows luck doesn't always come her way. She was about to interrupt him, saying he should find a steady job that brings in a little money every day. But thinking, at least he's not gambling or drinking, she remains silent. She picks up her twig spoon. She tries to put the piece of meat back. But I stop her and mention the baby. "Yara, you're so weak. Eat a little. Otherwise, how will Mimi get milk? Nothing beats breast milk, and formula is expensive and hard to find. Drink this fish and tofu soup. It's essential for health and for lactation." Yara glared at me sharply. Her grip on the chopsticks was so tight that her knuckles turned white, but she didn't refuse. I hadn't slept for a day and a full night. The exhaustion had seeped into my bones. The trouble at home was now under control. After finishing my meal, I simply said, "Yara, I'm going to sleep. I went into the inner room and, as soon as I laid my head on the bed, fell into a deep sleep. By the time Yara came back from washing the dishes, she found my clothes on the floor. She angrily picked them up and began washing them in the moonlight. Finishing her work, she walked wearily into the bedroom and accidentally stepped on a basket. Picking it up, she found new women's clothes and 3 sets of children's clothes inside. She stood there for a long time, staring at me sleeping. This man, she couldn't quite understand. I slept after selling the horse. While Mimi had woken up twice that night, she hadn't tried to wake me once. When I opened my eyes in the morning, I saw Yara lying with her back to me. She was wearing only an old, thin vest, and I stared at her. In my previous life, I had never been with another woman since Yara died. I reached out and pulled her closer. This all feels like a dream. So strange. As I leaned in to kiss her, her body stiffened. She didn't want anything to do with me. I swallowed the bitterness in my heart and got out of bed. I had to be patient now. I picked up my clothes that I had hung out to dry, not caring that they were still wet. I quickly dressed and quietly took the things out of the basket and placed them on the table. Just then, Yara sat up in bed. Her face was expressionless. She said, "If you really want to change, find some decent work. If you work hard, you can earn more than 10 yuan a month. We'll be able to survive." I was happy to see Yara talking to herself. She was thinking about my future. But fate had given me a second chance. When the economy reopens, I should have enough money to start. In my previous life, after losing Yara, I wandered around like a stray dog. Only when I found a helpful person did I get a job as a salesman in a government store. My words caught people's attention, and I became a manager. That's how I was able to get close to high and influential people. This time, I'll earn my first fortune on my own, and collecting dendrobiums is the fastest way to do that. The most important thing is that I have memories from my past life. I know exactly where dendrobiums grow. How can I miss this opportunity? The only problem is how to explain to Yara why I'm insistent on going to the mountains for dendrobiums. Seeing me silent, Yara thought I was adamant. She covered herself with a sheet and lay down again. She said, "There are corn rotis for you on the stove." Hearing this, my eyes lit up, and I couldn't hide my smile. I went over to her and gave her a small kiss on the cheek. "Yara, I already spoke to Boone yesterday. You don't need to go help them today. When you get a chance, bring half the meat from the kitchen." When I came close, she was scared. She thought I might hit her, but she had no idea what I would do. She didn't even understand what I was saying. And before she could say anything, I had kissed Mimi and left the house. By the time she realized, I was gone. In that dim room, it was just her and me sleeping on the bed. It was still morning, but Yara tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep again. She lay there until the sun rose. Then she heard a knock on the door. "Della, is everything all right this early in the morning?" "Della, dear sister, I heard from your sister-in-law that you guys ate meat last night." Della's eyes went straight to the kitchen. She was smiling and didn't even wait for a response. Her feet moved towards the kitchen on their own accord, as if they had their own eyes. "Oh my God, did he steal this huge piece of meat? How much will it cost?" No one here has seen a piece of meat in half a year. The children had been crying for days, but no one could buy it. As soon as she looked away from the meat, she saw half a pheasant hanging on the wall, and she was stunned. "Yara, my love, you should keep a close eye on your husband. This gambling could land him in jail." Yara's face fell at this. "What are you saying, Della? If he breaks the law, the police will take care of him. You don't need to worry about that." Della wanted to say something, but then fell silent. She changed her tone and said lovingly, "Don't be angry now. My love, I just want the best for him, like family. My husband is his own blood, and my child has been crying for meat for days. Can you give me 5 pounds of meat? My husband will pay later." Having lived in the neighborhood for 2 years, Yara had come to understand Della well. She knew her every move. What once went into Della's house never came back, and she was demanding 5 pounds. Yara didn't have the courage to make her own decision, and even if she had, she would never have given that much. "Della, I can't make this decision. Wait until he comes home." She locked the kitchen door. Della's smile vanished. "Okay then. When he comes, tell him to send the meat to my house." The fake smile vanished from her face as she turned. It was almost noon on the mountain. Drawing on my old memories, I searched and finally found a wild dendrobium. It was already afternoon by the time I cleared its roots. It was much bigger than the one from yesterday. By evening, I pulled it out of the ground. As I turned for home, I encountered a spotted deer, probably coming to eat the dendrobium. Without thinking, I took out my rifle, which I had bought just yesterday. A shot rang out, and the echo sent all the birds in the trees flying away. At home, Yara had prepared dinner. She had prepared Mimi's milk, and I hadn't come home yet. Her worry was evident. Dendrobiums aren't available every day. They should learn some proper work. Yara was also thinking about it when I sneaked into the courtyard. As I was unloading the basket, Yara heard a noise and came out with Mimi. She said, "Wash your hands and face," and the food was ready. She took Mimi inside. She looked at the basket and said nothing. Seeing the hot food on the table inside, my heart was filled with joy. I felt like going back to my old life and beating myself up. How could I have been so heartless that I didn't appreciate such a beautiful and loyal wife? I sat down at the table and ate as if I'd been hungry for ages. "Yara, I'll go to Grady's house after dinner. We need to get electricity in the house. Once we get electricity, we'll have to pay the bill every month." As she said this, she looked at me as if she was afraid I might overturn the table in anger. I immediately sensed her fear. I put down my chopsticks and brought the basket from the door and placed it in front of her. "Yara, look what I brought you today. You'll get a good price for it at the city store." Yara stared at the wild dendrobium and then looked at me in surprise. "Did you really dig this up?" "I swear it's not stolen. I worked hard all day on the mountain to get it." Yara looked at my face and then slowly nodded. "Della came in today. She was asking for 5 pounds of meat." Yara's face was pale. She wasn't happy about it. Della must have been bothering her without me. I looked her in the eye and said, "This house is yours. You decide on money and food. If you don't want to give, we won't." Yara was stunned by my words. She thought about it carefully. Then she said softly, "I don't want to give. Della asks for a loan, but never pays it back. This isn't the first time." Hearing this, I couldn't help but smile and touched her nose affectionately. Seeing my smile, Yara paused. She kept looking at me. Then I picked up Mimi and went inside. I ate, washed the dishes, and took some meat and went out into the darkness. Grady was startled when he saw me. Then, when he saw the meat, a smile appeared on his face. Taking the meat, he asked, "Son, how come you're here so late at night? I need to get electricity installed in my house. Can you help?" He said, "Yes, I'll send someone tomorrow. Thank you, Grady." I thanked him and walked back home without stopping. But as I passed the kitchen, I saw Yara sitting in the dark, eating the leftover crumbs I had left. The sight of it terrified me. My body went cold, and in a broken voice I asked, "What are you doing?" Hearing my voice, Yara dropped the bone from her hand. She looked at me in fear and said, "Don't kill me. These are just your leftover bones." I felt it wouldn't be right to throw them away. I felt as if I'd been struck by lightning. I had never felt so ashamed of myself before. I knelt down on the floor in front of her. Yara screamed, "What are you doing?" She stared at me in surprise. Then he felt something warm and wet on his chest. He was crying. It was as if a deep knot in his heart had been ripped open. It was so painful to see his own wife trembling with fear, even while eating leftovers. This feeling stabbed me like a dagger. I got up, took Yara's face in my hands, wiped her tears, and loved her. "Yara, go to the room. I'll get the food ready. You're the greatest blessing in my life." Yara didn't understand what I was saying. She ran out as if she'd seen a ghost. I set to work in the kitchen, and soon hot meat was ready. The dry food, so hard to swallow, she yearned for it. When I entered, Yara's back was turned to me. A flood of emotions surged through my heart. I embraced her from behind. At that moment, Yara felt safe in someone's arms for the first time. It was the first time they had slept like this since their wedding night. Remembering the closeness of that night, Yara's face flushed with embarrassment. As she looked towards the crib, her face turned pale. She realized she hadn't heard Mimi cry all night. Seeing Yara panicked, I immediately got out of bed and went to Mimi. Mimi was awake and smiling. My heart melted at the sight of my daughter. I picked her up and brought her to bed. Seeing Mimi all right, Yara felt a sense of relief. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she was angry at herself for falling asleep so soundly. How could she have been so careless with such a small child? I told Yara, "Yara, stay here. I'll make breakfast." Yara checked Mimi's diaper. It wasn't properly fitted, but it was perfectly clean. So that's why Mimi hadn't cried all night. This man had stayed up all night and taken care of the baby. This was the first time since Mimi was born. Had he really changed? Could she trust me again? I was engrossed in the kitchen until Yara came out with Mimi. Everything was ready. Tofu, green vegetables, corn porridge, and fresh bread. I took Mimi in my arms. Yara didn't believe me, but when she saw me struggling with the baby, she laughed. She's your daughter, not a lion who will eat you. At breakfast, Grady came in with the electrician. I was walking Mimi without a shirt. Grady saw the teeth marks on my arm and said with a smile, "Son,